Hello and welcome back to Reeling in the Piers, where we chat about and discuss all sorts of movies. My name is Gary O'Brien, and for today's episode of Classics with Cian and I are talking about the 1961 epic historical drama El Cid. So stick around, we hope you enjoy. Hello!
How are you?
Hello, how are we? Are we well?
We're well now, yeah. How do?
How do?
How do?
Do well.
Sorry, I've moved my laptop now.
You have moved your laptop, yeah. No, it's very important that you always make noises as you're talking. That's what I've learned in show business. I think this is episode 99, perhaps. So, it's taken me this long to realise those sort of things.
Yeah. But sure, look, if you didn't have me, you'd have no one to complain about.
That's true, I guess. No, I don't think so, Cian. I think I'd still have a chance to be able to complain about El Cid.
Oh, so you're just going to hit it right there? You're going to, you're just going to start, are you?
Yeah. Do you want to know something? And we've been having a bit of a riffing bit before the podcast, and I have been very coy about telling you my opinions on El Cid. But do you want to know something again? I think this is my favourite classic with Cian.
No way, really?
I think so. I think it's because. So when we did The Searchers and The Bridge on the River Kwai, and then whatever one was before that, The Quiet Man, we had gone in with, they were done by Oscar-winning directors, they had been nominated for Best Picture, it was all this hype around it, and I was watching it, and I was kind of like, yeah, it's grand, whatever, suppose, cool, yeah, and there's bits I liked. Whereas this, I went in with very low expectations, because I imagine most people listening to this either are one of the 3 people in the world that have seen El Cid born after the year 1970, or they're just interested to hear our thoughts on it, and I guarantee you they haven't seen it. So I knew nothing of this movie when you suggested it, and I watched it with no expectations, and I came away having a grand old time with it. I had a fun time with this movie. It is shocking, isn't it? I had a great time. Yeah.
Arguably, okay, I don't think it won anything. I love it. I love it. But at the same time, I don't think it won anything. But at the time it was made, I think it's coming off the back of Spartacus and Ben-Hur, the Ten Commandments. Yeah. And so it was. I actually came out of this movie with a lesser opinion of it. So we're on opposite sides for once.
Yeah.
So good. That's a bit interesting. But no, it was still made during a time when all these movies, big epics were coming out. So I understand people might not have heard of it because it hasn't won anything, but at the same time, I think when it came out, it was still a pretty big movie.
And I guess just for context of when it came out, so it was 1961, so very, very, very long time ago, and
almost as close to the time that when it's set.
I think that's a fact right there. That is true. Don't look that up. But so it was nominated for 3 Oscars. It was nominated for Best Art Direction, Best Musical Score of a Drama or Comedy, and Best Original Song. And so it wasn't nominated for any of the big awards or anything like that. But what won Best Picture that year was West Side Story, which I think you could say, pretty good. But I feel like there's one in here that you do know, and 2 that you don't, and another one that you might know. So have you ever heard of The Hustler?
Yeah.
With Paul Newman?
Yeah.
That's the prequel. That's the first. There's a sequel to that. That's the movie I was telling you about, The Colour of Money. This was all fair.
Okay.
It's all about that character coming back. Anyway, that was nominated for Best Picture. A movie called Fanny. I don't know what it's about. It's just called Fanny. And Fanny got nominated for Best Picture over...
Say it one more time, Gary. I know you
Fanny?
want it.
Then The Judgment at Nuremberg was nominated by Stanley Kramer. I don't know who that is. But then The Guns of Navajo.
Mm-hmm.
Navarone. Sorry.
Navarone, yeah. That was going to be my next one.
There you go. But, so it's a bit of tough competition that year. You weren't beating Fanny. No way was El Cid beating Fanny. You look back at a movie like Fanny and you're just, to be honest, I didn't look at this beforehand, and this is going to be the joke for the rest of the podcast.
I thought it was going to be Ben Joseph.
Ben Joseph. Okay, yeah, we'll explain that as well. So, Cian, what is, why, and within the same answer, can you tell everyone a bit about what El Cid is about?
It's about a Spanish kind of aristocrat who is... It's around the time of a Spanish, not uprising, but a time of unrest. They're about to be invaded by... Spain is divided. No, that's not true. It's underneath the control of a proclaimed emperor, Ferdinand, I think. Mm-hmm. It's kind of loosely based on fact, I think. Mm. I don't know really. And I'm going to get all the names wrong here. I cannot remember them.
Jesus.
I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
I'm going to rely on you looking up the wiki.
Okay, I have the wiki here, don't you worry.
So, but it's basically, yeah, Spain's, it's...
Sorry, I just want to confirm. It's set in Spain?
It's
Spain.
No,
Spain. Oh,
no,
Spain.
no, sorry, no. Spain.
Spain, thank you.
Spain.
Spain.
Or Spain.
Spain.
It's set in Spain, man.
This is going to be a long one.
Yeah,
this movie's 3 hours long as well, by the way. So, buckle up.
So there's civil unrest, and
Where?
this in Spain,
Okay.
and they're about to be invaded by like the Moors of like Morocco or North Africa.
Yeah, Northern Africa.
Who are Muslim based. Spain's Christian, kind of that kind of whole thing, and at the same time, Spain's like divided. So like they're on the brink of maybe it's like civil war, civil unrest. There's loads of kings or like vying for control. And then comes this, young kind of aristocrat who is marrying the daughter of the king's champion. So that's more akin to like Game of Thrones. Like you have what's the character's name? It's I think it's like the king's champion there as well.
Yeah.
So he's marrying the daughter of this guy. And it's all about his, like, okay, we could just go straight into spoilers because otherwise it'll be really long.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
So he comes across a battle and he captures loads of Muslim kings or whatever. They're after killing,
emirs, I think they're called.
What?
Emirs.
Sorry, what's the word?
Oh, emirs. E-M-I-R-S.
E-M-I-R-S. He captures all these like Muslim kings, emirs, and he spares their lives, which goes against protocol. Like all the Christian king, lords or whatever wants him to kill them, but he shows them mercy. One of them pledges his service to Rodrigo, this Spanish aristocrat. This young Spanish aristocrat, Rodrigo, he is condemned then for having betrayed the king's orders at killing the Muslims or whatever. But basically the film's about his journey through this political thing now he's going through. Like he's being condemned for sparing the lives of Muslims, but he's
a good fighter, so they need to keep him around.
He's a good fighter, so like his family is shamed because like his dad, people are saying bad things about his family now, and this film's all about honor and things like that. I think one of the quotes is like, what is a man without honor? So he's basically on trial then for, having saved the lives of these Muslims, but he ends up fighting the current king's champion because this guy has insulted his family's honor and his dad, and he won't retake his words, and he kills him.
Yeah.
But that also means he earns, like, the daughter's hatred, who he's in love with and is about to marry. But one thing leads to another, and he ends up being the king's champion. So it's all about his rise through power and eventually becoming as close to the king as possible, even though he denies the responsibility or the honor of becoming Spain's king, even though everyone wants him to be. It's just basically about his rise through power and how he leads the Spanish people against the Muslims who are invading from North Africa.
Yeah, and I guess another thing to kind of take from it as well is it's based on a real life. It's funny, Wikipedia calls him a warlord, and in this movie he's not represented as such. Much more of a cool, calm Charlton Heston. But yeah, and I guess another thing to kind of mention is that he gets the name El Cid because it's the sort of Arabic meaning for the Lord. Basically just means a sound lad. And yeah, so. Okay, another thing, so that's kind of a bit about, I guess, the synopsis and stuff like that. So what made you pick it then? I know you kind of said your opinion of it has sort of changed now having seen it, but I guess what was the fond memories that you'd had for it?
I suppose my draw for it is that, like, as a kid, like, all these classics I would have watched when I was young. I keep saying this repeatedly, but, like, as kids, where we grew up, we were always outside playing with sticks and stones and stuff, like swords and fighting, pretend battles and stuff. So this was like a classic for us to kind of model, pretend and play or whatever. Yeah. So, one of us would always be, like, when I say us, I mean my brothers. So one of us would always be El Cid, and one of us would always be your man Ben Joseph, who is the he's the Muslim king. His name's not Ben Joseph, it's Ben Yusuf.
Yusuf,
Yeah, yeah.
but you
We just keep calling
referring to him as Ben Joseph.
Ben Joseph. So, yeah, one of us would always be Al Cid, and one of us would be him, and it was just like this epic story of like, you know, a small time, you know, not even a lord, but a small time like aristocrat suddenly, you know, just through honor becoming almost akin to God, essentially, in some ways, like thematically, because, you know, towards the end of the movie, in the final battle, it's like the Muslim commander Ben Yusuf is like, you know, you would pit this guy against our Prophet Muhammad, you know, and, you know, the I can't remember which character actually says it, but they say, yes, we would. This guy epitomizes everything that we believe in terms of our beliefs and our honor and our righteousness and all this kind of crack. So, you know, all of it, like, we always wanted to play either El Cid as the good guy or Ben Yusuf as the bad guy. So
yeah, and then who had to play Shameen? That's El Cid's wife, by the way.
I know, yeah.
No, I'm not. I know, you know. It's just
for the audience.
For the 50, 60 people listening that don't know who it is.
Do I get 50 or 60 people?
The odd time, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Sláinte. No, you know, she never really entered into it. It was more about, like, we'd spend 5 minutes, like, hitting each other with sticks. One of us would end up crying, usually me, and then the game would stop, so.
And then who has to rush him? Shh, don't tell mom, don't tell mom, don't tell mom.
Usually Brendan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so that's kind of why I picked it, is because it is an epic story. It's got this epic sort of like perfect character because he is so, and this is one of the things that kind of jarred me a little bit, is just that watching it this time is that he is so honorable. It's nearly like, man, take the finger out a little bit. Like, it's too forced in some ways because they essentially give him a crown. So like at the time, I think Spain was split into different, I don't know what you'd call them, like duchies. Like, it's not a full country. Yeah, like it's not a full country, but it's not like provinces either. They're like under different kingships, regions.
I think they're duchies.
Duchies is another word for like a small kingdom or fiefdom.
Right, okay. I've never heard of it before, and I'm going to Google it, see if it's a real thing, and if it is, I'm going to cut this out so I don't seem stupid. Continue.
But like, he's given the crown of Valencia, which is the big town that he captures to help prevent the war or help win the war. But he essentially gives it back to the king. So it's kind of like, he's this honorable guy that he'll do all this because it's the right thing. Which for me, it didn't really sit right this time around, but you know, growing up, we loved this kind of stuff. So that's kind of why I love this movie and why I picked it.
Yeah, and I think a bit of that comes from the movie. Like, he doesn't really get, let's just say he never sort of gets his reward for his good deeds throughout the movie. So like, you know, he is accused, he does a nice thing, like you said, sort of letting those Muslim leaders go, and then he's punished for it. And then, you know, he then tries to defend himself, and then his father-in-law, you know, besmirches him and his family, and then he kills him, and then all of a sudden he loses his wife, and then he fights for his name, but then his wife doesn't love him anymore, and then he just like kills this rebel leader, and then he gets to marry his wife, but she doesn't want anything to do with him, and they don't consummate the marriage. Then he does something, I'll speak to this very quickly, and then he gets reconnected with his missus, but only at the price of him being exiled from Spain. So like, there's always this, and then finally he wins this big battle, like you say, and then he's handed the crown, and he says no, and you're just like, take the win. You've been losing all movie.
Like, and that's the thing, because, and he, like, throughout the movie, so originally, like, there's this King Ferdinand who's like the Emperor of Spain, even though it's self-proclaimed, I think.
Yeah.
But then he dies. Yeah, they're also, yeah, sure. Look, I self-proclaim myself.
Yeah. Oh, but, sure, you're the king of the duchy you live in.
The duchy, yeah. He basically the emperor, king, or whatever he is, he dies, and he splits his kingdom between 3 of his children. But the eldest is like, no, it's all for me. Then there's a fight, and it kind of leads to like a civil war. But like, all the time, Rodrigo, who's the main character, he always aligns himself with the current king, even though, like, there's a good scene where he protects, or like the younger son who has his lands taken away from him by his older brother, who is now the king, he asks him, will you not fight for us? And he's like, I've pledged myself to the king.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're the king's brother, I can't fight for you because it would be going against my king, even though he's done something bad. So he always aligns himself with what is proper, even though it seems like it's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And then, like, through assassination, that brother, the eldest brother, dies, and then the younger brother becomes king, and he pledges himself then to this king. So he's always on, he's always just trying to do the right thing. It's a bit forced, like, there was periods where throughout the movie where I was just like, man, just
have an opinion.
Do the smart fucking thing, like, do you know what I mean?
I can just see, like, Roy Keane be like, do your job. Fucking lean into it. Stop running away.
But, yeah, like, I'm trying to see it in a good light, this movie, again, because
Well, look, I'll tell you what I liked about it.
Do, please.
No, like, so I think one of the problems that I sort of had with some of your movies is they're very long and boring. And they sort of kind of just meander during the bits. I think of the bridge over the River Quay or on the River Quay. Or Quay, whatever we decided what we're going to say. I know the right one, but I can't remember if we say the wrong one or the right one. I can't remember. But anyway, why not? Anyway, but this I feel like had it was, the story was always moving forward. There's always something, we're always moving on to the next bit. Even if there's a bit of like fat or a little bit, like if it dips a bit, the story is still always moving because like you say, it is that journey of this hero. Well, hero, who's to say? I don't know history. But through this guy throughout time. So we're always kind of following. There's always a bit of forward momentum there. And I think throughout, there are some great character moments of kind of, like you say, some of his honor. And then there's good payoff about just around like the relationship with his wife. And then also the kids element in this. And then also like this sort of friction between the kings, the princes, and like those Muslim leaders as well. So there's always something kind of happening and always something building. And I think a lot of these sort of movies we watch, I always kind of have the criticism of like, geez, this would be a better TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie did the best job of like serializing or like having nearly like chapters that I feel like you could break this up into, let's say, a 9-episode thing based on like the 3 hours that are there. You could just slice them up and then you'd have a good TV show.
Exactly. I agree.
And I think that's why I liked it, because it was just, it felt very fleshed out because there are time jumps in it. Like he does actually it's very funny. One of the things, so Charlton Heston's in this. He plays the lead character Rodrigo or El Cid, and he's the guy from Planet of the Apes. People would know him from that, and amongst many other things. But I think most people would kind of recognize the Planet of the Apes guy. But he actually had a bit of umbrage with the director in that he was like, how come when time jumps I get old and grizzly and then Sophia Loren looks the same for the whole thing? So he was very upset by that. But yeah, so like we do have the time jumps, you know what I mean? So like, it is able to sort of tick off all the sort of main moments in his life. Yeah.
No, like, and I guess you're right in that sense. I think my disgruntlement comes from...
Is that a word? Disgruntlement?
Yeah, you can be disgruntled. And then the opposite is if you're gruntled.
Oh, I've never heard that before. So what's gruntled then?
I could be making that up, actually.
No, I like it though. Let's work on that for a second.
Gruntled.
Gruntled is... So to be disgruntled...
Is you're like perturbed, or you're like just something's bothering you.
Angry or dissatisfied.
Yeah. So
if you're happy, so if someone's like, I was feeling very gruntled today. Oh, it is a word. It means pleased, satisfied, or and contented.
Fantastic.
I'd have to. I was very gruntled throughout this movie. I have to say, I felt very gruntled. I had a gruntled time with this.
I was a little bit disgruntled with.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
No, I think you're right. Like the plot points, or like the plot or the direction of the story is good. The story is fantastic. I love the story.
Yes.
My problem is with these time jumps or gaps, because like you're just suddenly given a piece of information and you're supposed to just accept it. Like, say there's an assassin who kills. Okay, so Ben Joseph meets the Muslim king of Valencia. This is earlier on in the movie, before Rodrigo takes Valencia. But Ben Joseph.
Can we just call it? Sorry, just to avoid confusion. Can we just call Charlton Heston's character Sid?
The Sid.
No, just Sid. Because he's El Cid or Rodrigo, and I feel like I'll get confused and the listener will get confused. And I think it's easier if we just call him Sid, spelt S-I-D, like the sloth from Ice Age.
Okay, Rodrigo of Vivar the El Cid.
have to say. That did not gruntle me. I do not have a gruntle time
so,
with that statement.
Then Yusuf is he's meeting the current Muslim king of Valencia early on in the movie, or halfway through. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have to hold Valencia so you can let me and all my armies land on the beach, and so we can invade. And he's doing this just after the emperor has died, and there's this civil war unrest between his sons, like who gets what, and all this, the division of power. And he, like the current king of Valencia, the Muslim king, he's like, how can we do this? How can we get them to destroy themselves? And like Ben Joseph is just like, we can use this guy. And this guy, there's nothing said about him in that scene. It's just like, this guy, who's this guy? It bothered me. There was no, we haven't seen him before. There was no...
So I've realised what your problem with this 3-hour movie is. You think it should have been longer to flesh out...
Exactly!
No! You can't say that! You can't say this 3-hour movie wasn't long enough, you psychopath!
There is some movies out there that go over the 20-hour mark.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go watch them just for the sake of it, but this movie, there was too many bits not explained. That's my problem with it.
Okay, you want this movie to be more fleshed out. You want this movie set over like 50 years to go more in detail.
Exactly. Like, who are these guys? They were just given to us.
Doesn't matter. He's an assassin. What do you
But
want
they
to
didn't
know
even
about
tell
him?
us that he was an assassin. They didn't even say...
Well, look, he was going to
No,
assassinate
they didn't even
someone. That makes
say
you an
that.
assassin.
He was just like, we'll use this guy. And then you're like, for what? Right?
Cian.
And then when he assassinates
Cian.
your man, you're like, he's going to assassinate him. But it's not said.
Yeah, bit of a twist.
No, there was loads of little bits like that where it's just not explained. You just take this and accept it. And you're like, yeah, but it just... I understand that there's some parts in movies that are like that, but this one felt really out of place. Or in this movie, those bits felt really out of place. They were cut and pasted.
Yeah, and I will say there was some parts about the writer not being up to scratch, and I think I know Sophia Loren had problems with her script and got someone to fly to Spain like 2 days before they started shooting to try and get Spain. Sorry, scusi. To get some of her dialogue rewritten as well, and they had to bring in another person to like rewrite the romantic scenes and stuff. So it is a bit of a mess, and I think also as well that like, from the direction perspective as well, and the reason I'll bring up the director is because I know Heston wasn't a big fan of your man Andrew Mann. He wanted your man Andrew Mann, Mr. Mann, and Heston wanted to bring in the guy who did Spartacus with him, a guy. No, not Spartacus with him. Yeah, no, wait, Spartacus.
Yeah, or Ben-Hur.
What one did he do? No, did he? I think he wanted. Yes, he did. He wanted the guy from Ben-Hur. He wanted William Wyler to come in and do it. But there was some problem with the studio or something like that. There was a load of different disgruntled people after this. People weren't very gruntled after this movie. Let's just say that. And I think the writing was some of that as well. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. But like, I think it was because I was kind of learning as I was going, so I was always engaged and I was always kind of interested. Yeah. Like I said, it is a long movie. The pacing is a bit rough, but I definitely think the first half I had a fun time with. I think him having to try and build up and earn his name again.
Yeah.
That scene, the jousting scene, was incredible.
Yeah.
That came out was 61. How many years ago is that?
Many
Before
years.
I get my maths wrong again. Is it 62 years ago? It's roughly 62 years ago.
Who knows?
That stuff was as thrilling and tense as what you'll get now. And what I actually loved about is either that scene or the scene between Sid and your man's dad, the other King's champion. That sword fight, although not maybe technically proficient at sword fighting, the actors might not have been. The tension, and why I loved it was there was no score.
There's no dialogue.
There's no dialogue. There's no score. It's just the two swords like battering off each other, and like it sort of initially starts as like them just kind of threatening each other and just trying to be like be careful, I might fucking kill you, and then as the fight goes on it's very much like, no, you've pissed me off now, I do plan to kill you now here today. So.
No, like I agree, like some of those, and I said to you like off air, like that, like I have this movie split into particular points or like sections where, because I think a lot of my disgruntlement with this movie comes from the pacing or the set, like the scenes just happening. But the more I think about it, the more it's like I'm not a literary person at all, like in terms of plays or whatever. But it reminds me of when I was reading like Macbeth in school.
King's read Macbeth.
I'm not. But what I remember from it is that like suddenly
thou readeth Shakespeare oft.
thou didst. No.
Thou hast gruntled me today, sir. Oh, that sounded weird. Never mind. I cut that.
But what I was reminded from, or like what reminded me of it, is that, suddenly you're given the end of a certain scene, and I don't mean like a major scene. I mean like after 10 minutes you're given a scene. At the end of that, it splits to something completely separate, and I got the same. So in that sense,
yeah,
I was like, this is consider it like nearly a movie adaptation of like a play or like a historical story in that sense. And it kind of made me feel a little bit better about the movie. But but yeah, like that's all I have wrong. Like the only thing I don't like about the movie is this thing. Like, but everything else, like you said, I love the sword fighting scene is class, and especially some of the quotes. Like the character is, I know I have something like he's a bit righteous, but at the same time, like some of the things are really, really cool. Like that sword fight scene with his father-in-law is fantastic, because it's not even that they piss each other off. They realize that it's all about honor. Your man is not going to back down. He's not going to take back his words against the Cid's father, because he can't. It's a matter of honor. I've said these words. I mean them, and I can't take them just to make you feel better. I can't take them back. Sorry, just to make you feel better.
I can't gruntle you here today, sir.
Exactly. And the Cid's like, but I will actually beg. I will beg you. He puts himself down on the ground and says, I will beg you, just take them back. Because he knows that if he doesn't, he's going to fight him. Yeah. And he does, and he kills him. And then, well, eventually he becomes the King's champion, so it works out in the end. But I mean,
it all works out fine.
He earns his wife's hatred.
Exactly, yeah. But it's really interesting. You keep saying the word he earned her hatred. I just, rather than saying like she fucking despised him because she killed her dad. It's just like what he earned from that was her hatred. But no, it's very funny in the sense of, so what I loved about this scene was he then had to fight another guy. Oh no, so what happened was these other people come to like the king and be like, hey, we're taking this land, fucking let's have it. And then be like, whoa, why would we risk war when we could just have my champion versus your champion?
Exactly.
And then so Cid takes up the king's champion and the other people give him their champion. But then his wife, or his girlfriend, soon to be wife, is all like, hey, invading army's champion, you're my dude, fucking murder this guy,
take my colours.
Yeah, take my colours. And what's great is, so there's this big, like I said, big jousting scene, really intense, very skillful in seeing these guys. I know it wasn't actually Charlton Heston
batter each other,
like on the horse, grabbing the joust, fucking hitting each other, going to get the other joust. Like it was all so shit.
Can you imagine the weight of those?
Yeah. And then the scene that blew my mind is Charlton Heston's stunt double gets run over by a horse, like plowed by, like there's no hiding it. It's not a dummy. If it is, it's a great dummy for 1961. There is an actor who just gets plowed by a horse.
Yeah.
Insane. But anyway, what I loved about this was, so the Cid wins, and what's great is the king's like, oh, well, the Cid has murdered this champion, which means he possibly couldn't have killed the other guy, so he's off the hook. Look at him display his murderous tendencies. There's no way he could have done that earlier in the movie.
So now I will proclaim him my champion.
You are my champion. Please feel free to marry any woman you hate.
But one of my like my favorite points in the movie was like when I seen this, like, so in terms of jousting, and I've watched this from like a few Robin Hood movies as well and other historical movies, but like when eventually all the jousts are broken, and if you're both still alive, it becomes a sword fight. You get off your horses and you have a sword fight. If the swords are also gone or they're disarmed or whatever, you're given an additional weapon. In this joust, it was two monstrous fucking swords. Yeah. My God.
Two swords you'd expect to see in like World of Warcraft.
My God, they were huge. They're like, I think they're called great swords.
They're what?
They were huge. Great swords.
Great swords?
They're about like 6 foot in length.
Oh,
and
but
they're
that's
like,
incorrect, but alright, cool.
I don't know, but they were literally the size of these guys.
They're called gruntles.
Gruntles. They were
Sharp
huge.
gruntles.
And the lads were just swinging them around, battering each other with them. Like, I don't know. It was crazy. It was a bit, yeah. I don't know. I thought it was class.
But also, anyway, so just to kind of maybe cap off that sort of relationship with his missus, because she fucking despises him. And he's just like, hey, what's wrong? I killed the champion for you. We're like, what's going on? She's like, you still killed me, da. I'm not going to get over that. And then he gets exiled, and he's having the time of his life. He goes over to a leper, gives some water.
I thirst, sir. I thirst.
And he's being sad that he's got all of his shit on the back of a horse. He's ready to go. And then who pops up other than his Mrs.
wife?
Being like, you know what? You're actually pretty sound. I'll stick around with you, buddy. And him being like, Jesus, I'm only after getting a bit of peace and quiet. I don't know what this Dublin accent's doing here. I watched Intermission this morning, so I'm feeling very patriotic to Dublin.
Get out of the fucking car. No, but he's off, and he's riding off into the distance with his horse, his bits and bobs, and he's having the time of his life. He looks happy. It's a peaceful scene.
Yeah, for the first time in the movie.
And then he meets the leper.
Yeah.
Bit of crack. How are you? Do you want some water? And he gives him some water, and the leper's like, my name's Lazarus. What's the crack? Thanks for the water. See you later. And then his wife just suddenly appears, who hates him. And he's like, oh no.
Yeah. He's all like, bring back the leper.
No, and then it's just like they have the grand old time, but from then on it's just like, because he's exiled, but also because he humbled the king by making him swear that he plot his brother's death. Like, he gets so many followers around Spain.
Yeah, so this is my favorite thing. So, like I said, the man can't take a win. So he's been pining for this. He had this woman, then he killed her dad, and then she hated him for so long. And then he finally gets her back, even though he doesn't want her back, but they're back together again. And they move into this house. Someone knocks at the door, and it's about 5,000 soldiers. And then what's he do? And then the soldier's like, oh, come on with us, Sid. Come on, we're gonna fucking go at it. Let's go. And then she's like, don't. I've lost you to my country before. I can't lose you again. And then what does he do? He finally has his missus back, and he's like, bye. Just rides off.
I actually loved that scene though, because she's all like, no, cause she knows immediately. You can see it in her face. Like, she knows what this is. Like, he's in exile, wakes up one morning, and there's like 1,000 soldiers outside his door.
Oh, fucking Tuesdays, am I right?
Oh, stop. And they're all shouting the Cid, and she knows immediately what this means. And she's like, why would you ask this of him? He's done enough. He's given enough. He's given everything he's had and all this. And then it's a really tense scene, and they're all shouting his name, or the Cid. And he's just there, and he's holding her, and he's just like, for Spain, man. I need to do it for Spain.
No, Cian. It's for Spain.
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 It's a really good, like, all jokes aside, it's a really good scene, because it's just like,
yeah,
man, he knows the country's fucked. He knows that they're about to be invaded by however many Muslims from North Africa, and the country's just completely divided. They have a weak king. He knows the job that needs to be done. Let's go fucking do it. You know, it's I liked it. It was a good scene. Again, it's all about like his honor, and he knows what he has to do, or what's the right thing to do.
Yeah. It's the sort of like patriotism and sheer love of country that Eddie Hobbs displayed to Ireland during the recession. Where he was like, lads, I'm gonna fix it up, I'll tell you. Don't be buying your lattes. Anyway, but this brings me on to my next point. Not about Eddie Hobbs, although you know me, I could talk about Eddie Hobbs for hours. But the scale of this movie. This movie had far too much funding. It says the budget is between $6 to $9 million. That's incorrect. There's no way it only cost that much, because this movie is bonkers in regards to everything about it. So Time magazine have come out and said, not recently, but back in the day, has said that the movie required 7,000 extras, 10,000 costumes, 35 ships, 50 outsize engines of medieval war, whatever that means, and 4 of the noblest old castles in Spain, Ampudia, Belmonte, Peniscola, and See, I copy and paste these and never read it. Toralabogia. I can't.
Are you reading off like a Word document?
No, it's like a Ouija board. I'm letting the spirits guide me to the letters.
I thought you just read it directly off Wikipedia. I didn't actually know you put some actual work into it.
I put work in this. Believe it or not, I actually put prep into these games. Anyway, when you watch this movie, they do not spare any expense. It's fantastic because at no point do I ever feel taken out of the story because you're watching a big battle and there's a big battle happening with big armies. They're in the old castles, the shots aren't placed and the camera isn't placed in places to sort of cheapen the look of anything. It's always trying to present you big scale and historical accuracy, and I think that's what you have to give the movie a lot of credit for, is that they really make a lot of effort into keeping you in the story with the costumes, with the character, with the extras, with the locations as well. But then I read about the funding, where apparently the movie was partially funded by the fascist regime of General Francisco Franco, and it was heavily promoted as pro-Franco propaganda when it was released in Spain. And Franco actively supported Nazi Germany and fascist Italy during World War II, although he did not formally join the Axis of Power, despite writing to Hitler offering to join the war on June 19th, 1940.
That's all. Don't get into that, Gary.
We all take a bit of bob from a fascist leader.
No, I won't get into that.
Please
don't. No, you're right. Like some of the looking at the siege engines used in the few battles, they're all real. Like all the catapults or ballistas or the towers, and the men having to drag them and push them in costumes and armor. Yeah. So I was like, man, the amount of work on a beach.
Yeah. On a beach.
Yeah. Like, fucking hell.
And the horses. I know that sounds like there's so many fucking horses in this as well. Yeah. That's why I think and
it's not CGI fucking.
They're not CGI'd.
There's the lads from Rohan in Lord of the Rings. Do you know?
Yeah. It is actually jaw dropping. Some of the shots that they are able to pull off in this, based on the scale they have of just back in the day where they could just pump so much money into this sort of stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it was to be fair, it was really well done, and it in my opinion, it's got a much more authentic feel to how a battle would actually play out than if you're watching Lord of the Rings or
yes, I know it's absolutely,
this is historical fiction versus just fiction, but at the same time. Like the numbers, you don't see 100,000 soldiers. You see maybe 10,000 or, between 5,000 and 10,000 soldiers or something like that. They're not astronomical numbers. But at the same time, when you actually see that many real men with the amount of horses.
Not just men, real men. Men going out there to kill people. Yay.
Like Ben Joseph. My God.
Like Ben
and the Cid. It was class. No, those battle scenes are class.
It's epic. And that's not me calling it epic. That's the words of one Martin Scorsese. As when the movie was re-released in 1993, he said it was one of the greatest epic films ever made.
But in your so in your opinion, then, how many movies have you watched that are like this that you can compare them to? For me, I've watched many movies like this. So I have a sense of comparison, but for old movies, war scenes or costume or what's your opinion on it in terms of comparisons? What can you compare it to, or what you liked? I'm surprised that you liked it in that sense.
Yeah.
Is it for its authenticity or why?
It was just I don't know if it's authentic. Like I said, I didn't do enough research into how much of this is real, how much of it the fact that he's described as a warlord on Wikipedia makes me think he probably wasn't the nicest dude.
But you're a warlord.
Exactly.
You're going around the country.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But in regards to other movies like it, it's really interesting. So something like The Searchers and something like Bridge Over the River Kwai as well. Kwai, I can't remember what we say. We didn't talk about that last time. Kwai's that, I couldn't tell you. They had stunning visuals. Searchers especially, and they had the big battles and they built the big town. That was fine. Something like this, the bridge was breathtaking, that explosion, that was great. Something like Lawrence of Arabia, it's kind of similar to that, I would kind of describe. And so I don't think in quality, but I definitely think in some of those big scenes, the production, the scale of the production, I think I would definitely kind of chalk it up with that. But after that, I'm kind of drawing a blank. Like, I can't think of anything this big scale.
But say, even compared to like modern movies, say, I don't know if you've seen like...
Okay, put it this way. Put it this way. I went to go watch the new Mission Impossible movie, and that is breathtaking action, but you can tell it's CGI. And like, not that it takes away from it, but it's just like, this doesn't, like, I was so in the story in this movie compared to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which was because I could just see the CGI. I just knew it was CGI, but it didn't take me out of it too much, but I could tell what it was. Where it was this, it was just like, I was always in the story because realistically, somewhat, this is what it looked like back then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, that's the thing. Like, in terms of like historical fiction, I don't know if you've watched things like The Last Kingdom or Vikings or...
No.
I don't know. They're series, but like movies, say like the Robin Hood, like with Russell Crowe, that movie.
The Ridley Scott one, no, I
or like when they use armies in battles, they're always a bit more tempered. Like there's less soldiers than you'd expect. It's not like, okay, they're epic films or series, but like they use realistic numbers, which is really appealing to me because you know they're not taking the piss. You know that they've done their research. Like 300 men or women with swords and armor and horses. That's a lot. Like,
yeah.
Or say, no, one movie you've seen that I know you've seen it is Braveheart. I know it's not historically accurate, but in terms of the numbers for the battle scenes, it's actually pretty representative. Do you know, like...
Yeah, it's just not a good movie.
No, but just for the sake of the battle scenes and the work.
But actually, do you know what I would actually compare it to? And I'm just kind of doing some background research here, literally background research. Do you ever watch The King on Netflix?
Yes, that's a great movie.
That, I think, is probably the best modern sword and shield sort of battle numbers I've seen in a long time. And then the only other recent war movie that I would recommend people kind of is very good for scale is All Quiet on the Western Front on Netflix.
That's a remake. That was good as well.
It's a remake, but it's epic. There was one version, but that one that's epic in every sense of the word. But yeah, The King, probably that, and then actually The Last Duel, but not really. There's the Last Duel's battles aren't as good as else. Now, okay, another thing about El Cid's battles though is remember I mentioned that Charlton Heston was very upset with the director, and that apparently came to a front when it came to the last scene, the epics, the big epic battle scene.
Was it Quiet Front?
Sorry?
Was it a Quiet Front?
A Quiet Front. But it was all... Charlton Heston wanted the stunt director to come in and direct those scenes. But your man, Andrew Mann, had said that he wanted to do that. He was insistent that he did it. And I think that kind of shows because it was kind of like all the extras. And again, this is not a diss per se, but it's just like, it just felt like all the extras were told to kind of run at each other and just like clash shields, and there was no like epic emotion or storytelling kind of happening within the battle. That, like, again, the scale, the epicness of it, like that was what I took away from it. But I think it could have been elevated with if there was more kind of set pieces within it that you could sort of resonate with and kind of understand the story of a bit better. Like, obviously there's the scene where again, we're in spoilers now, where Sid gets shot with the arrow, but that's the only thing I really remember.
What did you think of that? Because it's just a stray arrow from a ship. Like, I
love that. I kind of like that. I was just like, look,
it's no one important. It's no one.
I love that. I like that, and that's probably what happened. But like, how many times in movies is it like
a special person?
The two of them face off in a one-on-one sword fight, and everyone else is kind of around them doing anything. Whereas realistically, someone with a bow and arrow and a sword would just fucking throw a spear at the fucking leader, Sid, and be like, let's just kill him. I'm not like, let's just get that done. You know what I mean? So yeah, so Sid gets an arrow. So this is like, this goes back to what Cian was saying about them. This battle all happens at they're holding off Valencia. They're trying to like hold it away from the Moors, and Sid just gets fucking hit with an arrow.
Random.
That's it. Now it's not it, but like that's the end of his story in a way, and like it's great. I was like, fuck it, I liked it.
Well, like physically yes, thematically no. Like the very last like scene, because that's say the second last day, and then the last day. Like, what did you think of that?
Okay,
like so, for me, like it was really strange. Like, I got it from a thematic sort of point of view, or I don't even know what the word would be, but like it was pretty class.
So for the listener, what happens? what happens is El Cid gets hit with the old arrow to the heart, and then his sort of forces are demoralized because Cid's been killed, and then the sort of invasion, invading forces are like, great, we've killed El Cid, let's fucking get this done. So his wife then comes up with the idea of like, I think it's his wife. In real life,
but basically they're just like, we can take the arrow out. This is the night after the battle. He retreats, and they're like, we can take the arrow out now. He might die. He might live, but he'll lose a lot of fucking blood, and he'll have to stay put. Or we can leave it in, and he'll be able to walk around for a bit. He'll be able to, do some bits and bobs, but eventually he's going to die. There's no way. If it stays in, he's going to die. But if we take it out now, he will either live or he'll die immediately. So they leave it in, and he has a chance to cover it and then go out and show to his troops that he's still alive. Raise their morale again, And he's going to say to them, look, sorry, I cut across you. You go on.
No, so what happens is he, as far as I'm aware, is he not dead on the horse?
He is, yeah. No, he is. Yeah. But he makes sure to tell them that, look, the point was that he wants enough time to be able to tell them that I will ride out tomorrow to battle with you. I will do that. Yeah. So do not give up. But he does die.
Yeah, so what happened was they put like a metal frame on his back effectively to prop him up. A spear in his hand. And then they just put him on a horse. They slap the horse like, go on, get out there. And then the horse just runs in a straight line. And everyone's like, yeah, El Cid's back, baby. And then like the forces, and then like the horse stops very thematically at the gates after it's opened, and the invading forces see it, and the sun shines down and lighting them, and it's just like a big, swell of the incredible score. And the invading forces are just like, well, we fucked this. He's still alive. And the movie then ends on a high of just...
They rout the enemies. Yeah. I'm telling you, Ben Joseph, he's some boy.
Okay, and this is another thing. Again, we'll wrap this up in a sec. But, like, are they the bad guys? They're not really the bad guys. No, I don't think. I think everyone's bad guys in this.
It's kind of alluded to in the movie that at this point in Spain, Spain, there's already... I don't know if... I have no idea historically. The Moors are actually... is it a religious minority, or I don't know how to phrase this properly.
No, so as far as I'm aware, I could be having this completely wrong, but it's I know Moors is a term used by a lot of just Europeans to describe people from the sort of North Africa, Sicily, Malta, that sort of region, like all that kind of like North
Mediterranean,
Africa, South European sort of Muslims, and Muslims. So I don't think it specifically.
But see, this is the thing. Like in the movie, like Spain has like not just Christian, but a lot of the Muslim peoples in it. So this guy coming up, Ben Joseph from North Africa, is like, you don't like our point of view. No, like nowadays it could. The story could equally be told from the other side,
I that's what I mean. You know what I mean? And like, it's funny. So this movie's actually banned in a lot of Muslim countries because
exactly, like it's not
that sort of massacre of the Moors.
It could be told either way, really.
Yeah.
The whole point is that El Cid. I don't know if this is true or not, but like early on when he saved the lives of those emirs, he gained the loyalty of one of the kings who keeps coming to his aid throughout the movie. So like. And there's one scene where they gather, like after he's been in exile and he's coming out of exile again, and he's gained all his followers in this new army. He also joins up with this, I can't remember his name, Monomet, or what's his name? I can't remember. But this is the guy that he saved. Like he spares his life, and they remain friends throughout the movie. And there's one scene like where they're sharing a battle camp, and the lads are just having the crack. They're like, who needs, segregation when you could have this? And it's just all the lads in the camp having the crack, beers, messing around, mock fighting. Like, it's class, And I think that was the point of the movie. Not to say that like Christians are, were more like historically more powerful than the Muslims or that. But either way, the point of the movie was to say that it'd be better if there was no fighting at all. You know.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, and I think that literally happens at the first scene of the movie where, like you say, El Cid is helping your man out. So, yeah, I don't know. I had a fun-ish time with it. Again, I went in with the lowest of expectations, so I was pleasantly surprised by it. So I think we should end this because it's too long. And I know you could talk for another 5 hours about this movie and really get into the nitty-gritty, but I've places to be, and I feel like we've definitely, you know, tested.
How long are we going for?
Too long, I'd say.
I don't see a timer here, Gary. It could be 10 minutes for the amount I've drunk.
Nope. No. I think it's way longer than that. Cian, anything else to add before we wrap up?
Okay, it's a pleasure. Pleasure as always.
Yeah. A gruntled time. I
gruntled.
I've always have a gruntled time with you on this podcast, Cian.
I know. And yeah, that's it. We won't.
That's it.
Yeah, next time.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen and everyone else, we are... Thank you very much to Mr. Cian O'Driscoll for coming back and doing another classic with Cian. And...
Apologies for any incoherency. So...
That's a lot of apologising to do. I also want to thank anyone who's listened to this or any of the other ones. If you'd like to keep up to date with the podcast, there's a few ways you can do it. You can follow the Instagram at Reading in the Peers on Instagram. You can also have the clips on TikTok. The full episodes go up on YouTube as well if you're not already listening there. You also can follow me on Letterboxd. The link is in the description. Cian doesn't have Letterboxd yet, but I'll convince him to do it one day. There's many different ways you can contact the podcast.
What's Letterboxd?
Oh, fuck off. There's many different ways you can contact the podcast. You can message into the Q&A on Spotify, you can comment on YouTube, or you can email readinginthepeers@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe and follow for more episodes. I think that's it, Cian. I don't know anything else.
No, not at all. Pleasure as always.
The outro's gotten shorter, okay? I've jazzed it up. I think
it's not. You're just talking faster. You just talk too fast.
Yeah,
I don't even listen to your intro or your outro anymore. I just can't.
Okay, that's hurtful. I'm feeling a bit disgruntled there, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, just... I don't know.
Okay, me and you, jousting, let's go.
Let's go.
Get your horse, get your jousts. I'll get my weird helmet with a little
sword.
fucking horse or another fucking
castle.
It'd be grand. Yeah. Me and you.
Bring it.